Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are. I want to thank you guys for coming to our fourth session for our Portus Lunch and Learns. Today, we are going to be going over advanced supply chain and MRP. If you guys have any questions throughout the event, please feel free to throw them into the question box and we'll be happy to answer. If not, I have a list of our contact information here. You guys can contact any single one of us here at PeopleSense. You can contact Jim Castellano, myself, Jessica Canellis, or your made-to-manage account manager, James Cooey. And so for now, I will go ahead and kick it over to Bill at Portus so we can get started on today's session.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. We'll get the screen rolling momentarily and we'll get started. Okay, so can you see the Lunch and Learn screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you everyone for attending, especially those of you that have been with us for the last three. This will be the fourth and last one in our Lunch and Learn series, and I really thank you for giving us your attention 4 weeks in a row. There may be some new people in this one, so as a repeat for the people that have been in the others, some quick background information. Portus is a 16-year-old company that is, by all accounts, a software development company, but we have a couple of pieces of secret sauce that makes our solutions very specialized and effective. One, we all come from a manufacturing background. So these concepts and the issues that manufacturers deal with are ingrained in us, and we like to think that we've walked in your shoes, and that all allows the Portus solution to have a soul, the soul of a manufacturer. And then we've been building on top of Made to Manage since 2012. So now over a decade, almost a decade and a half. So we have just a huge library of functionality on Made to Manage. We understand its schema and its limitations very well. And then our application has been used by multiple Made to Manage customers for over a decade and a half. And so their feedback and their constantly giving us feedback has made it a really now advanced and mature solution that you would be getting. What do? We provide curated real-time analytics with continuous drill downs into more levels of detail delivered in an easy-to-use browser-based application. Wordy, but very carefully crafted. Important word, curated, meaning everything you see has been engineered to give the maximum impact in terms of whatever it is that you're looking at. You don't build things in Portus. Everything is ready to go from day one. Everything you see here, everything you've seen in the previous webinars will be immediately available to you with your real-time Made to Manage data upon installation. So time to value is immediate. You don't have some long installation and training period. And then it's delivered in a browser-based application, so it's very easy to use and allows you to drill down easily into more levels of detail. We may have some existing customers just attending to brush up in today's session about our MRP solution. And then we have prospective customers that are curious, and this allows them to skip the sales and marketing pitch. And we're asking you to answer one question today. Do you see enough to schedule a customized demo with your organization with multiple people attending where it's more interactive? Webinars, I'm just going to go a million miles a second, and we can't really pause for questions or go a different direction, but a demo would be much more interactive. And as a token of our appreciation for attending, we will be providing all people that stay the entire 30-minute webinar a $25 Starbucks digital gift card. That's the lunch part of the Lunch and Learn. A quick thing about our sales process. Somehow we've managed to tell you about Portus, and thankfully you have agreed to attend the webinar. So you are right here just learning about Portus. The next step would be a personalized demo. After that, if the demo looks good and you're really curious, we'll just install Portus in your environment for a free 30-day trial, because until you see it with your own data, you won't know if it's a keeper And we are very confident in the power and effectiveness of what we sell. So if the trial goes well, you never sign up for anything other than a monthly term, because we're very sure, and it's been proven to us over the last 15 years, that once customers sign up, they keep the subscription. And so that's all you got to answer is this one question: do I see enough to warrant investing in a 1 hour demo? In the previous webinars, we have gone immediately to the demo. This topic today is a little bit more involved, so I want to give you a little bit background about this. We will be looking at our most advanced functionality in all of Portus. It is an advanced algorithm that does its own netting of supply and demand signals outside of the ERP. So we grab all of the important raw data from your made to manage database: on-hand inventory, work orders, sales orders, purchase orders, safety stock, receiving inspection inventory, bill of materials, so that we can explode make parts into buy parts and so forth. And we're able to run our own MRP simulation engine and give you results in terms of what you need to buy, what you need to have too much of, what is the gating item for various sales orders or work orders and so forth. The big deal here is that you do not need to create jobs for every sales order, although if you do, it's not going to break our system. If you have sales orders out in the future, it's not time to create work orders. You can still plan the material without that. I've heard some people call this a classic MRP. That was a favorite feature in Made to Manage at one point, but I don't anymore. We can also give you much more advanced reporting, slice and dice reporting. And then the really magical thing is that we're able to run the algorithm even on large data sets very quickly. So you really don't have to wait for any kind of batch processing to see what's going on with your supply and demand signals. And because it's so fast, it opens the door for advanced functionality like what ifs and scenario comparisons. We have a customer where we've integrated our MRP data flow into a smart hub, through which, through an API feed, they're able to change the made to manage purchase orders or create new purchase orders on the fly, bringing a lot of automation. And we can also integrate with EDI feeds to now get all of that information to suppliers, just bringing that level of automation into something that's a very manual process. Last slide, and we'll jump right in. These are the types of scenarios that would make sense for you to consider this. If you're a build to stock or repetitive build to order type of an environment, this will definitely have functionality for you. Even if you're make to order, but you have very dense bill of materials, this again will be very helpful to you. If you have frequently changing demands from customers, who doesn't have that? This will be very helpful to you. And of course, MRP, the M in MRP stands for materials. Materials should represent a reasonably significant portion of your overall product cost, where optimizing it is pretty important. Even if it's not, the smallest material, the lowest cost material, can often cause delays in builds. So this is important, but not the most important thing. And this is definitely true of most customers we talk to on MRP. Not really happy with the standard output of whatever MRP functionality is resident in the ERP. They just want better tools. So let's go take a look at this together. I'll go ahead and log in. Oops, I logged into the wrong one already. I'm going to log into one of our demo databases, and we're going to go to the MRP tab. And we're going to start with, this is not turned on here. So I'm going to quickly go to another instance of Portus. Let me go to, here we go. I want to start with the horizontal plan. I'll leave these in their current default settings and just hit go here. While that wheel is turning, Portus is gathering data streams of all the information it needs from Made to Manage: on-hand inventory, purchase orders, sales orders, work orders. Once it has them, it's running an algorithm, and coming back and giving you results. So this first run takes a bit of time. This is a very large make to manage database, lots of bill of materials, dense bill of materials. In some cases, this may run faster for you. The good news is once it runs and you have your initial output, the rest of your interactions are pretty quick. It was still relatively fast. So what is supply demand horizontal? Supply demand horizontal is saying, look, I ran the MRP and I want to give you a quick overview of where you stand on every part in the MRP. You're usually interested in purchase parts, so the default is purchase parts. And every part in this report has 3 rows. You see how the part number rev repeats 3 times? What are those 3 rows? Demand, supply, and balance. So let's take a look at this part over here. We have 239 on hand right now. We have 140 quantity of demand that's already past due, meaning the demand was needed actually before March 25th. After that, we'll have 99 left over. And then we have another 130 in demand, but thankfully 290 of supply comes in. So at the end of that week, we'll be at 259 and so on and so on. And this kind of will show you where you stand at the end of each week for the next 52 weeks. So that's good that you could do that. If you know of a part that you're interested, you could do that. But maybe you're now a buyer wanting to look at this stuff. Oh, and let me show you something else. You'll see this action column is very important. Let's hover over the action column and see what it means. Red, balance turns negative in the next 4 weeks. So you have an imminent issue. Obviously, red, you want to look at those right away. Orange, balance turns negative before lead time. Okay. We don't turn negative in the next 4 weeks, but we turn negative before the documented lead time of the part. That could mean that you will miss your plans. Yellow, balance turns negative after lead time. Still want to look at those, but technically speaking, you have time to handle those. And green means you got plenty of stock, balance never turns negative. So I'm going to come in and pretend I'm a buyer. I'm going to say, well, I don't want to look at all 94,000 rows of this. I'm going to say I am Tracy Yamamoto, and I want to look at my parts. And then I'm specifically interested in my orange parts, let's say. So we have Tracy Yamamoto's orange parts. And then I notice here, this part has a 112-day lead time, that's orange. And what I see as I scan across is I start out in 1,268 on hand. I don't have any activity until the week of April 6th. I actually get more in. Hey, I'm in good shape, 3,218. Now I start using some of them. So I'm at 1,218. And then I use another 40, then I use another 1,200. Look what happens to me. My balance is negative, and then we have this very cool red line that represents the lead time line. So 112 days from today would put us right here, kind of at the week of July 20th. So this is correctly classified as orange, saying, hey, I'm a little bit concerned about this. When you get out here, you're going to have a problem. If you really have 112-day lead time, that could be a problem. Now you're going to see why we call this the horizontal plan, because our supply demand report, which we're going to get to in just a moment, is really our vertical presentation of the MRP for a single part. The horizontal plan allows us to show all the parts in the MRP in one report, but if you click on the description here, we're going to get to the supply demand report for this particular part. This is a very powerful report, and almost all of our MRP reports are going to give you a drill to this. This gives you a very nice time-lapsed view of demand and supply and where we end up. So if you remember just barely the numbers we talked about, at time 0 today, we have 1,268 on hand, so our net number is 1,268. On April 7th, we're going to get another 1,950 in on this PO. There's the PO number. And then we have a couple of job requirements. Then we have a very cool thing that you'll only see in Portus MRP simulations, a derived demand, meaning there's a sales order that on its own is not getting supply from any work order. Notice that it is actually building something completely different from these work orders that also needs this part. There is no work order for it, so Portus has exploded the requirements from the sales order itself and says, also, you got to take into account that sales order. It needs 40. And then finally, you have this last record needed on June 9th, where our net number turns negative, and it says you should be thinking about ordering that. That's where it drives a planned order. The planned order is going to take into account your minimum order quantities and your days of supply in your INX screen. The INX screen in Made to Manage is less used now because of their reliance on planning and scheduling. But if you have correct information in there for minimum order quantities and days of supply, we can take that into account in recommending a planned order quantity. So that's the reconciliation from the horizontal plan to the vertical plan for supply demand. And in this vertical plan, you're able to see exactly what's driving your demand in terms of work orders and derived demand, and also what's driving your supply in terms of purchase orders coming in. And you can then continue your investigation into other parts. I will also say that we have customers that say, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to limit this to a particular vendor, say Avnet, and I'm going to export this to Excel and just send it to them. I'm going to send my orange and red items to them and say, hey, go and action these. By the way, if you've been with in our webinars before, but this Excel icon here allows you to take anything on here and export it to Excel. And now you're going to have a bona fide Excel spreadsheet with all of the information actually formatted nicely too, to tell you where you turn negative, where the lead timeline is, and so forth. So people love this horizontal plan report. So we have now gone over planning diagnostics, which are almost like the foundational elements of the MRP. But now we're going to use this not as a buyer, but maybe as a program manager, account manager, trying to understand, well, what does the MRP say about when a particular demand signal is going to clear? So we're going to go run MRP backlog analysis. So as soon as I click on that, it's going to start running. Again, it is rerunning everything, gathering all the data again in case there was any changes. Maybe you cycle counted some inventory out. Maybe a buyer placed a new order. Maybe a work order was set up. And now we get the backlog analysis report. The backlog analysis report just starts telling you, well, here is all of your open sales orders. We have the sales order number, line and release, the customer, the part number that we're making, what is the quantity and the amount of the order. And then we see the sales order's creation date or order date, the due date, and then the delivery date if you are managing it in Made to Manage. Then we calculate the clear date and the available date. So this is an MRP analysis of when we think it's going to clear and be available. And that available date can be directly compared to the due date and the delivery date to see how many days behind or ahead we are. Now we have various strange orders in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, look, I want to look at the orders that have the most value and analyze them. So when I do that, I see, okay, I have a 572K order for 1,000 pieces of this part number that I'm going to deliver to the San Diego Padres. Kind of weird. And we think that you are currently 6 days behind because the due date is 7/21. And we don't think that this job is going to clear until the job that ultimately is going to provide supply is not going to clear until July 27th. There is no manufacturing lead time loaded for that assembly, so it kind of thinks you can immediately manufacture it. Sometimes you'll see that for a particular assembly, correctly, there is some manufacturing time, so even if it clears, you know when it's going to be available. So you say, yeah, okay, but how do I know you did all of this right? I mean, you're telling me this job, which as you can see is a stock job, is going to provide supply, and then you're telling me somehow you've determined that that job is not going to clear until July 27th. How did you determine that? Well, the good news is you can click on that row and go to a very powerful drill. I picked this because there's a lot going on here. It turns out that our sales order over here, MRP wise, and this is stock, which means we've analyzed and seen that this job, IH855, for 1,000 pieces, all 1,000 pieces can be allocated directly to this sales order. It's almost like it's make to order, but they're using stock jobs. It's really up to you. But notice other things here. It says, by the way, in order to make this guy, you have other stock jobs that have to complete and then go to stock, and then those be issued to this job to give you that. And for each one of those jobs, we calculate a clear and available date in the system. So now when you go down to the bottom, you're going to see what's driving the, these are the make parts. Here are the buy parts that are driving it. So it's highlighted this buy part, which is a planned order. So it's saying, look, I didn't even find a purchase order for this part. This is something you need that's a shortage on IH852. And that is going to be basically the worst gating item that's going to cause you problems. Since I was not able to find a purchase order, I used the lead time for that buy part to calculate its clear to bill date. And just to demonstrate, I have added some dock time. This is a field that's available in the item master to say, well, some of this stuff, when it comes into the dock, it takes us a while to receive, inspect, and put it away. So we add another 3 working days to the clear to bill date to say this won't be available until July 27th. And it's coming and saying, well, therefore, this will not clear until July 27th. And away you go. So then you may say, well, wait a second. Why don't we have this on order? Is there some other piece of demand that's taking the stock that's causing me not to be able to clear this sooner? So if you click on the description, like we did before on the horizontal plan, you get to the supply demand report. And you say, oh, I see what's going on. I'm worried about this guy over here on job IH852, but I have 201 on hand in my main warehouse, but I'm going to run out by the time I get here, and I don't see any purchase order replenishing this. So that's going to be a problem for me. Okay, well, I want to know more about this part. So if you've been in our webinars before, you know that part numbers are always blue and underlined in our analysis. So if I click on the part number, I get to the part inquiry screen, which kind of tells us everything you ever wanted to know about this part number. Like, we do have 201 on hand. There are 3 jobs that require it. We were interested in this job. And you say, okay, well, I mean, this is not that expensive of a part. I don't want it holding up $500,000 worth of backlog. Let me see where I bought it before. Maybe I can call those guys. So I bought it from 2 different vendors and I see the prices. If I go back to part inquiry for this part, we have, if you happen to be using electronics, we have a very cool feature that says, well, if this part number is this microchip technology part number, go see who in the world has this part. Maybe I can get it sooner. So I'll click on market availability. It's going through a real-time API through our partner OEM Secrets, and it comes back and says, hey, great news. I was able to inquiry the microchip site itself, and they have almost 32,000 of these. All these other people, all these other vendors happen to have a bunch of this stuff. So maybe I look at DigiKey and it says, oh, DigiKey Actually, DigiKey says they have 509 of these. If I click on the DigiKey part number in the DigiKey row, I'll actually leave Portus, go to the DigiKey site where I will see that live right now, there's 591 of these available, so that I'm thinking I'm in better shape. Now, what you have to think about is how you do that today. You have a sales order that's dependent on multiple work orders, each of them with their own requirements. How do you bring sense to that and slowly peel the onion? The other thing I like to tell customers is imagine reviewing this with your customer, the San Diego Padres, and showing them, not in a spreadsheet, not in some using hand puppets or things written on the back of an envelope, but actually taking them through a web presentation and drilling down and showing them exactly where the gating items are and why we think we're going to be okay and so forth. Imagine the impression you're going to leave with your customer in terms of how automated you are and how much control you have over the supply chain. And that is another piece of this, that good analytics and the ability to showcase them can actually have a big impact on customer satisfaction, and maybe even gaining new customers by showing them the amount of prowess you have over controlling builds and understanding what gating items are and so forth. So in the remainder of the time, we looked at one report in planning dial, actually two reports, supply demand and horizontal plan. We looked at backlog analysis. Let's look at a report in supply management. So now I'm going to take you through very quickly through PO reschedule. Well, PO reschedule is, hey, I ran the MRP. You have a bunch of purchase orders out there. Some of them are coming in too early. Some of them are coming in too late. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to adjust those. So we have all the purchase orders listed here. And then when we get to the end here, it says, this is the action that I'm recommending. So you may say, well, show me all my cancel messages and sort them for me in terms of the biggest cancel messages. So it says, hey, I don't think you need this PO number 06547 line 1. It's $28,000 buying 65 of something. And you kind of see it's this thing over here. And you say, yeah, well, I'm not going to take your word for it, Portus. How do I know I don't need them? What do we know about the description? If we click on it, we're going to see what's going on. This one's very easy to read. I have 40 on hand. I have two pieces of demand, 20 each. That means my 40 is enough. There's no way I should be ordering these 65 to arrive on May 7th. If you're good at this, I applaud you. But I am shocked at how many companies would not notice this, and these 65 would come in on May 7th, end up on the excess report, and then people would be thinking about paying return fees and restocking fees and so forth. So very good supply management as well. And that's really the organization of the MRP sim: diagnostics, supply management, and demand analysis. Okay, let me stop there and see if there's any questions that have been posted by the audience.
I do not see any questions.
Okay, so remember, our goal is to see whether you've seen enough to schedule a demo. And my wife told me this morning to say this to the audience because she feels like it's the best way to synthesize it. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain by scheduling a demo and even doing the trial, because it's risk-free, but this could be a game-changing application that really brings a lot of efficiency and control to your operations. So we look forward to hearing from you about scheduling the demo. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Bill. And thank you, everybody, for attending today. If you guys have any questions, please, you can email any one of us here at PeopleSense, or you can call our office, and we'll be happy to help you in any way we can. So thank you, everybody, for attending today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.